Welcome to the orientation for the BPA-approved PTCS service providers, and thank you for your participation in the program. This orientation is required for all trainers prior to providing certifications to contractors who will do work for the BPA utility programs, and for the quality assurance inspectors who will inspect that work. This orientation is offered as a combined orientation, in part because so many inspectors are also trainers. It's also true that what is found during inspections often reflects things that may be addressed, in part, with changes to the training materials. The Pacific Northwest has been a leader in heat pump and duct system efficiency for over 20 years. This work started in 1990, when research by the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance led to the establishment of Climate Crafters. In 2002, Climate Crafters established its first specification for performance-tested comfort systems, which was then adopted by the RTF. In 2006, BPA contracted for program delivery of the standard. Based on its demonstrated success, Washington later adopted PTCS into their code, and the RTF added specifications for ground source heat pumps. BPA now manages PTCS program delivery in-house. BPA provides a central location for program forms and information for the PTCS program at www.bpa.gov/reshvac. This site hosts updated lists of approved technicians, trainers, and quality assurance inspectors, as well as program forms, fact sheets, and specifications. It's important to understand who all the actors are in the PTCS program. The technical specifications, managed by the Regional Technical Forum, are used by many entities besides BPA and its utilities. BPA uses those specifications as part of its PTCS program, including program requirements and implementation manual guidelines for reimbursements that its utilities must also use. The online registry is available as a resource to all utilities in the region and is also managed by BPA. Finally, utilities in the BPA territory utilize the specifications, program requirements, and reimbursement requirements to craft their own PTCS offering to their customers. Each utility may decide its own incentive levels and rules, and may even elect to offer the program through their own list of trade allies. As a BPA-approved trainer, it's important to understand and communicate to contractors the importance of BPA's reimbursement requirements. Utilities may refuse to provide incentives for work that will not be accepted by BPA. All duct sealing jobs must meet with both the duct sealing requirements outlined in the PTCS specifications, as adopted and posted to the ResHVAC website, and BPA requirements outlined in the implementation manual. PTCS requires that all accessible opportunities be sealed. The duct leakage post-test must also meet the reduction or tightness requirements as outlined in the specification. In addition, BPA will only provide reimbursement for installations where at least 50% of the ductwork is in an unconditioned space, and the pre-test indicates that the ducts are leaky enough to benefit from sealing. The minimum pre-test leakage requirements are outlined in the implementation manual and on the form. BPA duct sealing reimbursements are $500 for existing single-family homes, $400 for new single-family homes, and $400 for manufactured homes. These incentive amounts are what BPA pays to utilities for qualifying jobs, but the amount utilities pay to their customers can be different. Always refer contractors to the individual utilities for details on their incentives paid. Utilities must also keep copies of the PTCS duct sealing form and vendor invoices for proof of payment for each duct sealing project. These forms support utility claims for reimbursement from BPA, as well as program impact evaluation efforts. As with duct sealing, heat pump reimbursements must meet both the PTCS technical installation standards and BPA program requirements to be eligible for reimbursement. This includes PTCS requirements for sizing, airflow, refrigerant charge, strip heat lockout, and duct leakage, as outlined in the most currently adopted PTCS specification posted on the BPA ResHVAC website. BPA also requires that the heat pump installed has a minimum performance rating of 9 HSPF and 14 SEER, and that the ducts be sealed if they are eligible for the duct sealing measure. In heating zones 2 and 3, BPA also offers ground source heat pump reimbursements. Only new installations in single-family homes are eligible. The installation must comply with both PTCS heat pump and IGSPA specifications and be installed by a single technician who is certified in both PTCS and IGSPA. The equipment installed must be ENERGY STAR qualified, with a COP of 3.3 for closed loops or 3.6 for open loops. The BPA-adopted version of the PTCS specification for ground source heat pumps is available on the Res HVAC website. BPA's reimbursements to utilities are published every 6 months in the implementation manual. Heat pump reimbursements include air source heat pump upgrades, air source heat pump conversions, commissioning and controls of air source heat pumps below 9 HSPF, and ground source heat pumps. Utilities must also keep copies of the PTCS heat pump documentation for each heat pump project. This documentation supports utility claims for reimbursement from BPA, as well as program impact evaluation efforts. Required documentation includes the PTCS heat pump form, a PTCS duct sealing form if duct sealing is required, vendor invoices as proof of payment, the AHRI certificate, sizing calculations, and the balance point worksheet. Ground source heat pumps have an additional documentation requirement, including the manufacturer startup form and the International Ground Source Heat Pump Association, or IGSPA number, of the technician. Please note that the PTCS heat pump certification and IGSPA certification should both be held by the same technician. Having reviewed the technical requirements, we'll now discuss requirements for the program delivery. The PTCS program requirements document outlines BPA requirements for training, technicians, utility participation, and quality assurance. The PTCS program requirements are provided on the Res HVAC page under Program Specifications. As a trainer, you will be providing the certification required for technicians before they can do work in the PTCS program. Newly certified PTCS techs must provide advance notice to utilities so that their first 3 installs may be observed. All techs must correct any installation issues identified, and these certified technicians must keep their PTCS knowledge current. Utilities participating in the PTCS program are required to verify installer eligibility, to quality control review data received, to ensure quality assurance is conducted as directed, and to work with BPA on audits and action plans to correct any issues identified. QC of data received is automated by the online registry. PTCS trainers must be BPA approved. BPA provides training materials, and any training materials not provided by BPA must be approved prior to use. This approval process ensures consistency in certified technician knowledge. Upon successfully demonstrating knowledge in the field and passing the written exam with a score of at least 80%, trainees must be given proof of completion and a BPA participation agreement form. Trainers must provide to BPA within 5 days a roster of class attendees which includes their test scores. All of these materials can be found on Conduit in the trainer groups, for which you will soon receive an invitation. Quality assurance must be done by inspectors approved by BPA. Individuals, not companies, may qualify to be quality assurance inspectors, and they may not inspect and install in the same territory. A minimum of 10% of all projects per program year must be inspected, including the first 3 jobs of each new PTCS technician. Inspections for a fiscal year are due within 3 months of the end of that fiscal year. Inspections for a fiscal year are due within 3 months of the end of that fiscal year. For projects claimed October 1st, 2012 through September 30th, 2013, QA inspections at a rate of 10% of the total are due by December 31st, 2013. The QA inspection protocols for passing and failing an inspection are outlined in the program requirements document as well. QA inspectors have the responsibility to fail systems that do not meet PTCS specs adopted by BPA at the time of install. You must report such failures to the program, utility, and contractor, and identify corrective actions required to bring substandard systems to spec. QA inspectors may also need to support BPA audits of prior QA inspections as requested. Next, we will look to the content of the PTCS training sessions you will provide if you are an approved trainer. Duct sealing training for new ducts is a 1-day course, while the course for new and retrofit duct sealing is 3 days. Technicians successfully completing this course will show competency in proper sealing technique, proper use of testing equipment, program requirements for relevant utility service areas, proper form completion, and how to respond to quality assurance inspection issues. These topics are all covered in your BPA-provided training materials. Heat pump certification lasts 1 day. Technicians successfully completing this course will show competency in control of auxiliary heat, airflow testing, heat pump sizing, refrigerant charge, program requirements for relevant utility service areas, proper form completion, and how to respond to quality assurance inspection issues. These topics are all covered in your BPA-provided training materials. BPA provides the materials you need to train students in the PTCS specifications. This includes the class roster, the training presentation and manual, reference handouts, a skills checklist, the written test, certificate of completion, and the BPA participation agreement. The written test may be administered online if you choose, but to grade the test, BPA prefers the test not be graded by students. Encourage technicians to create a user account on PTCSNW.com, as it and a signed copy of the participation agreement are necessary for them to begin entering jobs. Let's look at how BPA-approved inspectors manage quality assurance. The purpose of the quality assurance process is to continuously improve the program and competencies of the contractors who participate through constructive feedback. It also allows for trend analysis and opportunity identification. For example, using data collected through quality assurance inspections, we can understand the success rates of training materials or performance at the regional and individual levels. PTCS quality assurance inspectors agree to attend a BPA inspector orientation prior to inspections and to conduct business ethically and professionally. While the RTF may adopt changes to the PTCS specifications, inspectors agree that they will inspect projects in BPA territory to the version of the specification adopted by BPA at the time of the installation. It's important that inspectors follow BPA-provided procedures, including the accurate, objective, and timely documentation of findings. Inspectors will report all past QA inspections to their utility within 5 days, and will report failed installations to the utility and BPA within 3 days. This is an example of the inspection process. Inspectors may coordinate with the utility to modify this process at the sole discretion of the utility. In this example, the utility provides a set of randomly selected sites for inspection. The sample can be a combination of all PTCS projects. The inspector may, at the utility's discretion, schedule appointments for inspections, advising homeowners that the inspections are on behalf of the utility. The utility should not have less than 5 days advance notice of inspections so that they may attend if desired, and the homeowner should get a reminder call 2 days in advance. Advise the utility of any missed appointments so that they can provide alternative sites for inspection if available. All PTCS service providers are expected to maintain professional and appropriate conduct in communications with homeowners. Never make misleading or disparaging remarks about a utility, the quality of work done, or any other topic. If a project has failed, the utility will want to discuss it with the contractor before bringing it to the homeowner's attention. Do not use words like failure or unacceptable. The only exception is in the case of immediate health and safety concerns. If you find a situation that puts the homeowner in danger, that should be shared with the homeowner. If a homeowner persists in requesting additional information, you may tell them that the utility and the contractor will follow up with them. Similar to how PTCS installation data is collected, BPA utilizes the online registry for quality assurance inspection data collection. BPA provides an inspection form to collect this data so that it can later be entered online. Some inspectors elect to use computers or tablets in the field for this data collection. Include photographs and document all communication with the site technician that occurs before, during, or after inspection. Document any corrections made during inspection. All fields on the QA inspection form are required. Partial forms are not considered complete QA inspections and will not count towards the utility's annual requirements. The information requested is used to analyze the program and identify issues that should be addressed with contractors in training. Whether due to inexperienced technicians, someone with experience who rushed a job, or genuine error, there will be times that a job does not meet the PTCS specification. When a project is found to be out of compliance, the inspector will notify the installing technician, the utility, and BPA. Contractors are required to correct all errors identified by the inspector as a condition of continued participation. The only instance where this is not the case is sizing, though persistent sizing errors will lead to decertification. Either the utility or BPA may initiate corrective action plans, depending on the circumstances. Continued and documented noncompliance by a technician may result in permanent decertification from the program. In the Program Requirements document, BPA outlines the protocol for passing or failing an installation. This section discusses that procedure and can also be found in the QA reference manual. Duct sealing jobs are both visually inspected and tested during quality assurance. The PTCS specification requires that all areas must be sealed. Pay special attention to high-pressure areas such as the air handler, supply duct, and plenum, and takeoffs. All joints and gores must have UL 181 mastic, and all accessible metal duct connections must be fastened with a minimum of 3 sheet metal screws. No duct tape should be visible except on the access cover, and there should not be any disconnected ducts. A visual inspection of a home sealed with AeroSeal, an AeroSeal sealant applied from the inside of the ducts with special equipment, is a little different. It may be indicated on the form or label near the access hole that the system was sealed with AeroSeal. Such a duct system will have sealant in the gaps, holes, and connections as illustrated in these photos. AeroSeal is an acceptable mastic substitute, but it does not eliminate the need for mechanical fasteners, duct tape removal, or any other PTCS specification. When inspecting a duct sealing job, QA inspectors must take a clear photo of the furnace to plenum connection, the CO monitor, if there is a combustion appliance zone, the panduit straps on flex duct, any inappropriate duct tape, and any locations that should have been sealed but weren't. The PTCS specification says that all accessible ducts shall be sealed. A location is considered accessible if it does not require drywall patching, is within reasonable physical reach, and does not require destruction of non-discolored insulation. Ducts do not have to be brought inside of the conditioned space. The belly of manufactured homes is considered accessible. Duct job inspectors will attempt to replicate the technician's duct leakage test. For new homes, this is the total duct leakage test, while existing and manufactured homes will be tested for leakage to outside. For existing homes, a supply-side test may be used if the return is not reasonably correctable, such as when the return is a cavity. The PTCS program does not require CAS testing, though some utilities may add that requirement. If a home has a combustion appliance zone, or CAS, the CO monitor shall be left in the home, regardless of whether the CAS testing is required. The CO monitor must either be installed or set up, or standalone model. As the QA inspector, you must conduct a CAS test if the homeowner's utility requires it of technicians. If a duct system was PTCS certified based on the leakage as a percentage of the home's square footage, then that leakage must meet that standard. All duct sealing jobs must have all accessible ducts sealed, paying special attention to high-pressure areas. Sometimes the test out cannot easily be replicated during the quality assurance inspection. If the CFM leakage is not more than 20% of the expected number, and not more than 40 CFM above the allowable amount, then the job may be passed with a phone call to the contractor. This phone call should happen where the homeowner will not be able to listen in, and will include a discussion with the contractor to understand the circumstances. Ideally, arrangements will be made for the QA inspector to mentor the contractor during their next installation. If a job does not meet the leakage and sealing requirements, it must be marked as having failed. If a duct system was PTCS certified based on achieving a 50% reduction in leakage, then the inspector will attempt to replicate the test-out number. If the total leakage is less than 400 CFM at 50 pascals, then the leakage to outside post-test CFM must be not greater than 130% of the CFM reported by the technician. If the total leakage is greater than 400 CFM at 50 pascals, QA measured leakage to outside must not be more than 125 CFM difference from what the technician reported. All duct sealing jobs must have all accessible ducts sealed, paying special attention to high-pressure areas. If the job does not meet the leakage and sealing requirements, it must be marked as having failed. If the technician met certification requirements with the supply-side only test, then the inspector shall try to replicate that test. In this instance, the leakage must be no more than 40 CFM over 10% of floor area, or a 50% reduction of the pre-test leakage, whichever's less. All duct sealing jobs must have all accessible ducts sealed, paying special attention to high-pressure areas. If the job does not meet the leakage and sealing requirements, it must be marked as having failed. PTCS heat pump inspections must confirm airflow, auxiliary heat lockout, compressor lockout, and refrigerant charge. Airflow must be at least 325 CFM per ton, unless otherwise specified by the manufacturer. Auxiliary heat must be locked out at temperatures above 35 degrees Fahrenheit in normal operation. The setting may be as high as 40 degrees for thermostats where that is the lowest possible setting. The compressor should not be locked out at a temperature higher than 0 degrees. Finally, refrigerant charge must be verified using the temperature split method or the line set method as outlined in the QA reference manual. Correct sizing for heat pumps is required by the PTCS installation standard. During your inspection, verify heat loss calculations and sizing. Improper sizing must be reported to the utility and to BPA, and will lead to a corrective action plan. Inspectors must photograph anything that can be considered out of the ordinary. In addition, the inspector should capture the indoor unit data tag, the auxiliary heat settings, and the outdoor sensor. The program receives many questions and takes care to document those in a frequently asked questions document, available on the Res HVAC page, as well as in the QA reference manual. Sometimes we're asked why utility program requirements sometimes differ from BPA's program requirements. As you may know, utilities receive reimbursements for installations in their territory that meet BPA's minimum requirements. Utilities may decide to require more than this BPA minimum standard, so certified technicians should always check with their customers' utilities before beginning work. We've also been asked what's the difference between a PTCS specification and a BPA reimbursement requirement. The Regional Technical Forum's PTCS subcommittee is composed of industry experts who created the PTCS specifications and sometimes revise them. BPA may choose to adopt revised specifications, and when it does so, the adopted specification will be posted on the residential HVAC webpage, bpa.gov/reshvac. In addition to the adopted specification, BPA may choose to include additional requirements for reimbursement, such as a higher efficiency rating. The implementation manual will list these additional requirements. We're also asked about test-only jobs. The online registry currently has a designation for duct sealing jobs called Test Only, which will indicate the results of a job that was tested. The job may or may not have met the PTCS specification requirements, and Test Only is not used to signify PTCS certification. Contractors may enter test-only jobs when they are seeking PTCS certification of a heat pump and need to demonstrate that the ducts did not require sealing according to the BPA program requirements. Do variable speed heat pumps, VSHP, with inverter technology qualify for PTCS certification? Variable speed heat pumps do qualify as long as they're installed according to the manufacturer's specifications. Please refer to the fact sheet regarding variable speed heat pumps for more information on this technology. It's important to note that, during testing, airflow may be lower than 325 CFM and still be in compliance if the manufacturer's installation guide indicates that this is appropriate. We've also been asked if QA inspectors must own their own sets of equipment. While QA inspectors are not required to own their own equipment, all QA inspections do require the use of equipment. QA inspectors who do not own their equipment will need to rent or borrow equipment to conduct inspections. Will a PTCS heat pump job fail the quality assurance inspection if the existing ductwork has existing duct tape instead of mastic? As a part of the heat pump inspection, the QA inspector will confirm tightness of the ducts. If the ducts are tight enough without sealing, then no work, including removal of duct tape, is required. PTCS quality assurance inspectors shall not fail a test-only job based on PTCS duct sealing specifications. Ducts with pre- and post-tests must be sealed to PTCS specifications, and so duct tape on those jobs is not permitted. What does it mean when the PTCS specification requires that all accessible ducts must be sealed? If a reasonable technician can reach the ducts in an unconditioned space, then the ducts must be sealed. The follow-up question to that has been, are ducts buried in attic insulation considered accessible? If so, are contractors required to bring the insulation back to the condition it was in before the sealing work was done? Ducts in attic insulation are considered accessible. Ducts in attic insulation are considered accessible. The program does not require attic insulation to be returned to its previous state. However, customer comfort and net energy savings will all be higher if the insulation is returned to its original state or better. 5.2 Section 5.2 of the specification requires that, where insulation specific to the ducts has been removed, the insulation must be reinstalled and securely attached to the duct system. According to Section 5.1, do I have to remove all insulation from accessible Ys, elbows, and other duct connections to inspect them? The intent of 5.1 is for the contractor to inspect the entire duct system. Accessibility for existing homes was clarified in the 2009 version of the specification. 5.1.1 states that the accessible plenum connections and takeoff shall be exposed, properly connected and sealed. 5.1.2 states that accessible Ys, elbows, and other duct connections shall be exposed, properly connected, and then sealed when they are found to show signs of leakage or poor fit. The most obvious sign of leakage through insulation is discolored insulation, and signs of poor fit may include loose sections of duct or highly improbable geometry suggesting a disconnect. And 5.1.3 states that the flexible duct connections that have properly secured exterior liners may be considered to have interior liners that are not accessible. The exception in 5.1.3 is that the inner liner on manufactured home crossover ducts shall be considered accessible. Now that you've completed the BPA Service Provider Orientation, please email us at reshvac@bpa.gov for an invitation to the PTCS trainer and/or QA inspector groups on Conduit. All of the materials you need to conduct inspections or training are available on the Conduit website and the BPA website. The PTS team is available during normal business hours to answer questions and help with Conduit, the online registry, program materials, and more. Thank you for participating in the PTCS program.